action in 2022 under the administration of former President Muhammadu Buhari. In a joint letter made public on Friday, SANU President Muhammadu Ibrahim and NASU General Secretary Peters Adeyemi expressed their discontent over the government's decision to settle 4 months of withheld salaries for members of the Academic Staff Union of Universities while neglecting the non-academic staff. The unions emphasized the unfair treatment and questioned the government's rationale behind the selective payment. The letter further highlighted several issues, one of them being the union's stance stating that they would find it challenging to guarantee industrial harmony within universities if the government continues to withhold the salaries owed to their members. This announcement raises concerns about the potential for widespread industrial action that could disrupt academic activities across Nigerian universities. Previously, on February 13, 2024, the unions voiced their grievances through protest letters addressed to the Chief of Staff to the President, Femi Gbajabiamila, and the Minister of Education, Tahir Maman. Also, the governor of Abia State, Alex Otti, has refuted media allegations suggesting that he took legal action against President Bola Ahmed Tinubu and the federal government. In a press release issued today through his chief press secretary, Kaze Uko, the governor labeled the reports as false information and advised the public to disregard them. VOP News understands that a different section of the said fake report claims that Governor Otti has imposed a restriction on businesses run by Nigerians from the northern region residing in Abia State. It further says this restriction will remain in place until the necessary authorization to construct the proposed seaport and international airport is obtained. However, Governor Otti, in the statement made available to journalists today, reads, Abia State government's attention has been drawn to a fake report trending on social media, especially X, formerly known as Twitter, that the governor has sued the Nigerian government and President Bola Tinubu at the International Criminal Court. This is fake, misconstrued, and malicious, the Abia State government denies. Elsewhere, 8 Labour Party members in the Anambra House of Assembly have forfeited their salaries for the next 6 months. The lawmakers are Nkechi Igboefi, Henry Mbachu, Jude Ifeanyi, Fred Ezenwa, Justice Azuka, Paul Obu, and Patrick Okafor. In a statement today, the lawmakers said they took the decision as part of their contribution to alleviating the economic hardship on its citizens. The lawmakers called on President Bola Tinubu and all other governors of the 36 states to suspend work on other sectors and declare a state of emergency on security and hunger. They also commended the party's 2023 presidential candidate, Peter Obi, for his selfless efforts to ensure the stability and growth of the nation. In a related development, inmates at the Just Correctional Center, Plateau State, today staged a protest over the economic hardship ravaging the nation. VOP News gathered that the protest began immediately. The inmates were informed of the downward review of sizes of food in the correctional center. The inmates were said to have refused to take orders from the custodial officials and also shunned breakfast during the protest. The inmates converged at the center of the prison yard while shouting on top of their voices. They were, however, dispersed by the custodial officials who used tear gas to force them back to their rooms. The controller of the Just Correctional Center, Raphael Ibinuhi, confirmed the development, blaming the protest on the high cost of living. Ironically, Ukraine has donated 25,000 tons of wheat as emergency food assistance to 1.3 million vulnerable, crisis-affected people in northeast Nigeria amidst rising inflation and food price spikes. This is contained in a statement by Atinuke Akonde Alegbe, spokeswoman for the British High Commission's Foreign, Commonwealth and Development Office today. The statement said the donation was made under the auspices of the United Nations World Food Programme response in the Northeast. It explained that the contribution was part of Ukraine's humanitarian Grain from Ukraine initiative launched by President Volodymyr Zelensky. The statement disclosed that the shipment was made through a collaborative effort from the UK, Canada, Denmark, Finland, France, Luxembourg, Norway, the Republic of Korea and Sweden, who transported it from Ukraine to Nigeria. According to the statement, the grain intervention was informed by the soaring prices of staple food in Nigeria, pushing basic meals out of reach for millions of vulnerable families nationwide. This is really tough time for many people across the world, including in Nigeria. It is important that we help the most vulnerable population. The UK is proud to be part of the global community supporting WFP to distribute life-saving grain across Nigeria, reaching over 600,000 people. And now to actually expatiate further on some critical issues on the world news at 6 as read earlier, and for a better comprehension to you, our esteemed listeners, I actually have via the telephone a political, social and national affairs commentator, and that is Mr. Akinfatuke. Mr. Akinfatuke, good evening and welcome to the world news at 6 on VOP 90.3 FM.
Thank you very much, Esther. It's a pleasure to be with you. And good evening, Nigeria.
Yes, good evening. Thank you so much for taking your time. I know I called you at the last minute. I do apologize for that. However, I trust your analysis and you giving us an objective perception to the issues that we're going to discuss this evening. Mr. Akinfatuke, when I read the story about Ukraine having to donate wheat or grains, about 25,000 tons of wheat as emergency food assistance, I considered it quite ironical. We do know that Ukraine has been going through a lot. In fact, it's a war-torn country. Their people can barely feed. Their people can barely sustain. They've been getting a lot of humanitarian aid from other European countries, all right, even NATO countries. So literally at this moment, Ukraine actually needs the help of Nigeria, all right, in terms of forces to fight for them, in terms of shelter, food, medicine, whatever it is that is required to sustain them while they fight the war with Russia. So how come Ukraine is showing support in collaboration with other countries to, help alleviate the hunger crisis we're facing when our country is not war-torn? What's your take on that?
Thank you very much, Esther. If you remember, in the of the COVID, when the Russian-Ukraine imbroglio started, and logistical disruptions went rife, prices of grains went over the roof, not necessarily in Nigeria, but all over. Others have now since then adjusted, and they have decided to find a way around it. But Esther, I cannot agree with you any less about the infernal irony of a crisis-torn Ukraine now being the one that is helping others. Well, helping because we have always had the comparative advantage all over the world. I dare say, where you might say Ukraine started, go back down the history, Nigeria was also at a point where we should be the food basket of the world. What did we do? In my opinion, it was one talent. I went to bury that talent, and when the master came, we kept on giving excuses upon excuses. That's number one. Number two, since about 2022, 2022, 2023, this initiative was already in the works. At the back of the COVID, at the back of the COVID, one should expect that now that we didn't have too many. Be very careful with the statement I'm making here. Too many fatalities against the trend in other areas. To kept faith, and I will tell you, this is high-level diplomacy. Nigeria at the outbreak of the Ukrainian and Russian war maintained a balance. I dare say, and I must give it to the the immediate past administration in Nigeria of Muhammadu Buhari, they did not, as much as one would have thought, lean on one side or the other. In fact, I dare say the humanitarian NGOs of Nigeria were very hard on Putin. I think Ukraine did not forget this, so it's like a brother in need. But put all together, a situation where I have always advocated for trade, not aid. I mean, this is like food aid. It's an indication that the scorecard for Nigeria in our food security problems, farms, hoodlums, our corruptive tendency, the fact that we have not planned for the rainy day, the fact that the Lagdo Dam drain can be opened at any point in time, the fact that we got into the imbroglio, that's what I'll call it, and thank God that it's getting over now with Chad, in terms of the kind of food that we are supposed to be trading intertrade. We have no choice. Esther, the situation that we are in, I will say this: a hungry man is an angry man.
Oh yes,
there is absolutely no shame in saying we have gotten it wrong. And that is the exact statement you are hearing from me. If rulers and those who are ruling us are not, they do not have the courage to be able to say that, we all say that, it therefore shows that something has failed within our food chain, our food security situation. President Bola Tinubu at every turn, in fact, not too long ago, openly agreed that we have food security. The numbers are already enough.
I have other questions. I have other questions. Mr. Aki, can you hear me?
We haven't gotten our acts together.
Mr. Aki,
unfortunate, but
I really need, because of time, so I really need to ask you other questions. I would input that your response to each of these questions be as short as possible so we can cover several issues. Now, the special advisor to former Vice President Atiku Abubakar, Paul Ibe, was interviewed recently, and he was able to discuss things about the current situation of Nigeria. And he gave his opinion about President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's recent stance on taking responsibility for the present economic crisis faced by Nigerians. He made it clear in his interview that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has to succeed and show transparency in his governance since he was voted into power. So in his words, we are not opposition, we are Nigerians, we are stakeholders in this project, and whether Tinubu likes it or not, he has to succeed. I know it is easier to snatch, grab and rig than it is to govern, but we need to put him in check, and it's our responsibility as stakeholders in this project. How will the president be put in check? Because according to Paul Ibe, he says, in as much as, he alluded to the fact that, in as much as it is easy to rig, grab and snatch power or rig elections, well, now he is the president and he's responsible for the wealth of the entire nation. So what's your take on his reaction to the president and the current economic crisis?
Well, politicians who, I try to strain to hear it talk. Quite a number of the things we have said. You're talking about Paul Ibe.
Yes, Paul Ibe.
And that's PDP, right?
Yes, PDP, yes.
PDP.
A former special advisor to Atiku Abubakar.
From what I heard, of course, opposition should be opposition. Opposition should try and make sure that at any point in time, we put the feet of the ruling party of the president to the fire. I also heard you say snatch and run.
That's what he said. That's what Paul Ibe said. That it is easy. I was quoting him. I was reading what he said.
That you said Paul Ibe was talking about snatch and run.
Yes, that's what I'm referring to. That's what he said. That it is easier to snatch, grab, and run, but that the person needs to be checked.
I understand. using, that's a thing.
Yes.
Politicians will behave that way. If the issue were to be on the other side, I'm sure the ruling party too will be using the words like special wrong. The elections is over, dusted. And I just think that all hands will be on deck. I also, believe that he said something like that. But the way of politicians is, they want to find a way to show a deed. I dare say the PDP was in power for quite a while. And the vice president was in power for also quite a while. And I know this current government of the APC, they were in opposition, so they gave them a good run for their money. Things were not as bad as we have found them here. If you didn't plant yesterday, and if you attempted to plant yesterday, and the hoodlums came and started beheading farmers, and you didn't do what you need to do, and corruption was swinging like a door that swings right and left, whether it is PDP, whether it is APC, whether it will be a Labour Party who is a bit to the right or to the left, also belong to all those parties, we will not get there. Do we have food security problems? Yes. What are the solutions to it? The solutions to it is that we have to be very creative. We have to accept the fact that we have lied to ourselves over the years. In the past 8 years, we have been a lot of propaganda, no doubt about that. And equal propaganda in the previous 16 years. This is not a time for us now to be dancing Palogo and be dancing Skelewid or Twetwe. This is not the time for us to now then put all our hands in one basket. My expectation of opposition should be, we have 35% food inflation in Nigeria today. In the states that are being controlled by PDP, can we make them a kind of can we make it a bit different? Can we begin to see the ray of light? I do not see the difference between 6 and half a dozen between such states that should be doing something even within their jurisdiction. The penchant to always look at the center, I have no doubt about the fact that we should look at the center, because the policy, whether we are talking about the monetary and we are talking about the fiscal, which are still the dancing little bits and pieces to try and repair a lot of the things that have happened, is such that we all have our hands in the till. What I am not comfortable with, I dare say, and my point are not very popular with Nigerians. Elections is far gone. Peter Obi, as an example, has been a statesman who came out clearly and said, look, it doesn't matter. The elections is over. People should not even be asking questions about what is going to happen to him in 2027. That is not desperate. He is not desperate to rule Nigeria, but he will act as an opposition and give what I call his own alternative views. Going back and still talking about snatch and run elections does not help PPP, does not help Paul Ibe, does not help whoever took it, Ungilale, does not let Bayo Ononuga. Put all that across, stay on your lane, let's put all our hands together. If you choose that you do not want to be a part of it, then okay, let's stay on the other side, but please stop trying to start wrong, start looking for, no matter how badly you felt, that election came and had been adjudicated on, agreed or you don't agree, please, 2027 is just out there. Let's begin to see that in the politics of it, put your hands in order. If you are coming to come as a coalition, this is the time we should be seeing that coalition. But that people are hungry, that people, food security is not getting to where it needs to get to, and that the corruption is still in very high and terrible places, both at the center, both at the National Assembly, and both at the state, government levels, including PDP, including APC.
Mr. Akin, we're running out of time, so I want to ask you a final question.
That would be my. I would not be drawn into the politics of
the opposition
milk that is split, and what am I going to do with milk that is split? I am interested in the hunger in the land.
All right, Mr.
How
Akin.
do we revamp? How
Mr.
do we
Akin,
reform?
in reaction to
make
this,
sure that we reduce it to the barest minimum?
Mr. Akin, in reaction to this, a lot of other political stalwarts are reacting, including civil society organizations and all the civil society advocates. For Aisha Yusufu, she actually said that she doesn't think that anyone knew that Tinubu was this bad, that it takes a special kind of failure. And you know, according to her, she says it takes a special kind of failure to be worse than Buhari. And it was quite a lengthy thing. She highlighted other issues and the scathing criticisms on the president, which is currently bedeviling the nation. But other critics have actually, responded to Aisha Yusufu by saying that she has been harsh from the very onset of this administration, without giving this administration the ability to breathe and see or understand that the administration inherited a very porous government before it came on board, nothing for the administration to stand on. You also have persons like a former spokesperson actually asking, that is Daniel Bola, you know, the presidential campaign counsel to presidential candidate of the PDP, Atiku Abubakar. He's saying that Yemi Cardoso should be sacked because, according to him, he says he doesn't have any history of being a bank executive. He doesn't have any history of occupying that role and would be ruthlessly committed to reforms. So he's talking about the forex crisis bedeviling the nation, that the president should sack Yemi Cardoso. It shouldn't be about who I know. It should be about
put politics into everything. This guy came and said it was going to be on regulation, which is exactly what should happen. Not long after he said he was going to come on regulation, the powers that be got up and said, no, you can't do that. Politics took regulatory areas out of Lagos, and he said, look, to make it much more efficient, let it come back to Lagos so that we can get the logistics. We started hearing noise. We started hearing a lot of din. The guy has been focused. As we speak today, like I said, he's swimming against the tide. He's been able to recover quite a lot. He's been able to repay a lot of the debts, the FX backlog. Oh, come on, that cannot be a new fight. That's a man who perhaps, I agree, is traveling with one hand. He needs the other side. He needs everybody, including the opposition.
Mr. Akin, thank you so much.
We should get away from this.
Right,
look, Nigeria should go beyond just throwing stones for sake of throwing stones. We are in dire straits.
Thank you, Mr. Akin Fatuke. Thank you so much. We've actually run out of time. Mr. Akin Fatuke, I sincerely do appreciate your input and analysis on the world news at 6. To wrap up here again are the top stories. You heard that Sanu Nasu threatened strike over withheld salaries. Abia State Governor Alex Otti denies suing President Tinubu. 8 Anambra Labour Party lawmakers forfeit salaries for 6 months. Just prison inmates protest over food ration cuts amid economic hardship, and Ukraine donates grains to federal government as Nigerians battle severe hunger inflation. That's a wrap on the world news at 6. My name is Esther Wachuku. Good evening and thank you for listening. Up next is the Evening Rush with Precious E.